You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. We're coming to you today from the Sofitel Hotel in Brisbane, where we've just been holding the Resources Rising Stars Summer Series Investor Conference. One of the companies presenting at this conference is Greenvale Energy. Greenvale has Neil Biddle as Executive Chairman. Yes, that name rings a bell, I'm sure. He was the driving force behind the great Pilbara Minerals lithium juggernaut that started in this hotel in presentations in 2014. In this episode, you'll hear Neil and I recap about the day Neil did that presentation and what transpired over the next 8 to 10 years. A great success story indeed. Neil's at it again. This time he's moved into another form of energy, uranium. Greenvale's picked up a project in Queensland and some projects in the Northern Territory. It's brownfields exploration, that lovely sweet spot for investors. He knows it's there, it's just a question of how much he's got and what grade. Neil knows all about turning these projects into viable operations. He takes us through what he's up to, why he likes the projects, what he's going to do about it, and why he believes shareholders stand to do so well out of Greenvale. Neil, I'm getting a bit of deja vu here, I don't know about you. It was about 2014 that I emceed a lunch for you. Nick Reed and I hosted a big lunch in this hotel at the Sofitel in Brisbane. You were just starting up Pilbara Minerals, I think, and the share price was about 2 cents. That day we had a big room full of people here, people were loving it. You were explaining to people all about this new metal called lithium and what it would be used for in batteries and electric vehicles and the like. And here you are again, you're going around again, starting from scratch, back at the Sofitel in Brisbane, telling investors why Greenvale is about to embark on a new life. What are you up to with Greenvale?
We've just picked up 5 uranium projects over the last 4 or 5 months. There are parallels with where uranium is now and where lithium was in 2014. We saw a growth trajectory for lithium that the market wasn't appreciating. Elon Musk was in full swing promoting Tesla, and people were talking about disruption in the markets and with electric vehicles, power tools. We used to, at 2014, we were still using generators to run our power tools in the bush. That's all gone now. So we saw that trajectory for lithium. We saw that market had potential to grow rapidly, and that's the story I was selling. We see the same thing today in uranium.
Right, so you've just been talking to some of the investors here at the Rising Stars conference about Greenvale and what you're doing. Now, in your presentation, you spoke about a project, Oasis, the Oasis uranium project in Queensland. Tell us a bit about how you came to get that and what the plan is.
Well, Oasis belonged to a company called Maverick Exploration, which is run by our old mate Joe Tracy. And Joe saw that I was getting interested in uranium, and he contacted me and said, have I got a deal for you? And he did.
As Joe does.
As Joe does. And Joe's a pretty canny geologist, as you know. He knows his way around a project. And he and his partner, Cameron McLean, picked up Oasis about 4 years ago. They had Dr. Simon Beams from TerraSearch pull together all the data, reprocess the data and reinterpret it. And Dr. Simon Beams came up with a granitic intrusive origin for the Oasis deposit, and intrusive granitic deposits are typically very large uranium deposits. Rossing, Namibia is the type example, most commonly referred.
So if it's mineralised, there's a lot of it.
That's right. And this project has all the hallmarks of being a big uranium project. The geophysical signatures, the drilling that's been done to date, very high grade results from only a small area of what is a very large, probably 10 kilometres by 8 kilometres radiometric anomaly.
Right. So what do you plan to do with it? I mean, uranium exploration isn't for the faint-hearted. Is it as simple as lithium in the sense that you do the same things, you do some surface work, you got the geophysics, and you put holes in it.
It's a bit trickier than lithium, because lithium you're drilling big pegmatites, and generally the pegmatites aren't structurally controlled. Well, they are on a regional sense, but they're big blobs of rock. This is more akin to gold exploration, but uranium has a much more definitive geophysical signature than gold. I mean, geophysics won't find gold, whereas radiometrics does find uranium. So, and now with downhole probes and radon gas cupping, which is a geochemical technique, there's a lot of techniques that we can use at Oasis to quickly get to drill targets. But Oasis itself is a major drill target. They've only drilled 300 metres of a 1.5 kilometre long structure, which is hot all the way. And I don't know why they stopped drilling. There's no reason. It's just not. Uranium's had that very checkered history.
So the results from the previous drilling show you that the grade is there and the grade is good enough?
The grade is extremely high. The average grade from all the SO drilling was about 4 pounds per tonne uranium. Uranium's U3O8's about $70 a pound. So 4 pounds is about 450 Aussie a tonne. It's high value ore. And the grades are up to 15 pounds per tonne.
So it's a question of you wanting to extend the known strike of the mineralisation?
We'll drill out Oasis, and we will also, there's multiple splays, there's multiple structural controls identical to Oasis that's still waiting to be drilled. That's why we think, because it's this intrusive style of uranium deposit, that's why we think it's much larger than just Oasis.
So you're looking for quantity now. You got grade, it's just about finding more of the same.
We're looking for a world-class ore body, and that's the big attraction of this, that it has that potential.
So what do you do next? What's the work plan?
We will start drilling in April, I hope. We're having a meeting in Townsville next week. We actually flew to Townsville last week for a meeting with our geologists, and we couldn't leave the airport when we got there. The town was flooded. So the first phone call we got when we landed was from the geo saying, "You can't come to our office, it's flooded." So I sat in the Qantas lounge all afternoon.
And went home?
Went home.
So you've got a plan together?
We have, and we have, as I say, reinterpreted data by Dr. Simon Beams from TerraSearch. He's a very experienced geologist, knows Oasis deposit well, knows that area extremely well. He's worked on the project. He did all the ground magnetics on it 20 odd years ago for Glengarry, who had a crack at it. So, and they're a very good team of people. And they'll be managing the project for us. So yeah, we're straight into it.
Now, it's not only Oasis, you've picked up some other uranium projects in the NT?
4 in the NT. 2 of those are quite advanced. 2, they were all identified in 1999 from a Geoscience Australia funded radiometric program, regional radiometric magnetic program. And at 400 metre line spacing, which is fairly wide spaced. But all these occurrences, uranium occurrences, were identified in that program. Only 2 were followed up on, which is the Douglas River project up in the Pine Creek mineral field and the Henbury project down near Alice Springs in the Amadeus Basin. Henbury's very close to the Pamela Angela deposits. It's a known uranium area, and there's been a bit of ground sampling done and ground mags and ground radiometrics to confirm the mineralisation. It's about a 13 kilometre long structure with radiometric anomalies, so it's drill ready. The Douglas River area is sitting below a very hot granite. It's very close to other well-known uranium deposits. And that was drill ready 14 years ago, and the company that was going to drill a 13 kilometre target, 13 kilometre long target, I don't know if they went broke or they just ran out of money, but they didn't end up doing the drilling.
And of course the uranium interest at the time was non-existent, wasn't it?
Non-existent.
Yeah. Same presumably at Oasis. These things
Exactly.
they're found, but the prevailing price provides no incentive to pursue it.
Correct. Oasis had 2 periods of exploration, 73 to 78 when it was initially discovered. They were the majors.
Yeah.
And then 2006 to 2009. So over a 50-year time frame, just 2 little windows, 2 relatively short windows.
And do you think this time we're at a different, the cycle will be different this time around, Neil? Do you think that the outlook for uranium has got a fundamental structural change in terms of the supply-demand equation?
Yeah, absolutely it has. Because of the desire for the world to go emissions-free, and particularly by these big tech companies, big industrial companies. We're talking GE, Hitachi, Westinghouse, Rolls-Royce, and with the major techs, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're pouring money into the nuclear industry. And these are the biggest, richest companies in the world. So this is real. And just recently at an energy summit, 32 countries and 14 big banks signed up to trebling the nuclear energy output over the next 25 years. So that means 3 times the uranium that's used today.
So it'll be different this time around, it'll be sustainable, you think?
Well, the big companies, the big money is going into it. So yeah, I do believe it. And I think the stage 4, the 4th generation reactors they're developing now will really change the game.
Now, you've had a long history in this game of exploration and small and mid-cap resources stocks, Neil. Obviously news flow is a key part of it. People listening to this would say, well, Neil, are you going to be able to, generate the consistent news flow that we need to really repeat your success at Pilbara and other places?
Yeah, I do. I really believe we will be able to do that. At Pilbara, at Pilgangura, we had multiple rigs going. And I heard you talking before about a company that's got 6 rigs going on what looks like a fantastic project. Same deal here.
It's the name of the game, isn't it?
It's the name of the game. And I've always focused on making sure our drilling campaigns are well funded. This will be no exception. And we've got a good team of geos. It's a bit easier to get people now too. The industry has slowed up a lot. So we can get drill rigs and we can get good people. So yeah, if we're getting the results, we'll just go for it.
And what are you going to do you've still got the Alpha Torbanite project in Greenvale. Is that there for the long term or is that tradable?
Greenvale's owned that for 45 years. It's like
it's Errol-dieted in, is it?
Yeah. We've been working on it for 5 years since I came into the company. It's been laborious, so it's one of the most painful projects I've ever had. But the fundamentals of it are fantastic because Australia imports all its bitumen. It really comes down to test work and getting the process right so that we're producing Australia standard bitumen.
And you plan to stick with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're working with the University of Jordan, Monash University, and Technics in New Zealand. So it starts at the University of Jordan, the current program, which is the 6th program. The next phase is back to Monash University because they've got a bigger reactor, so we step up. And then the 3rd stage is certification of the product from Monash by Technics in New Zealand. And once we have that certification, then we'll put in our offtakes in place and take it to feasibility.
Yeah, so you can do these things in parallel. There's not a question of one or the other. You can run the uranium exploration while in the background you advance the studies and like on Torbanite. Yeah,
the study on the Torbanite doesn't cost much. We get 46% back on the R&D. We might spend $600,000 a year and get 300 back. So it's not sending us broke.
So you've got a bit of leverage here to uranium success, haven't you?
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. That's what's going to drive the share price ultimately.
Yeah, of course it is. Exploration success is that's what we're chasing, and we've put a fair bit of work into making sure we've picked up projects that give us that best chance. There's no guarantee with exploration, but Oasis and Douglas River and Henbury projects
They're brownfields exploration, aren't they?
They are.
Certainly Oasis is brown. Even the NT stuff is brownfields exploration.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Which history suggests is the sweet spot for investors. It's not a question of is it there or isn't it there. It's there. It's a question of how much and what grade.
That's it. You've just got to throw money and expertise at it.
Which looks great. Well, Neil, fantastic to have you back at Rising Stars presentations. I think, as I said at the outset, amazing bit of deja vu to be back in the Sofitel where the story started. Nick Reid and I remember the day well, and the stock was 2 cents bid, 3 cents offered, and you were explaining why lithium was going to have a great future. It was a fantastic 10 years that followed there, and now we'll be into the next one. I think the uranium idea has got a lot of support. You can see the success of Boss Energy, for example, absolutely tearing away.
Fantastic.
And the idea that there will be a reliable source of supply from a location like Australia is obviously a great thing. Investors really want to see more uranium from Australia, and if Greenvale comes up with it, I'm sure they'll have no problem finding a market. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Paul.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.